beat back those fears. I got 4 big ideas for you, and you're gonna love them. Number 1, and you're gonna hate this one, but I'll make sure you like the rest. Number 1, stop thinking the reason you are not getting ahead has anything whatsoever to do with fear. Fear gets too much play in our lives. We're always going to it. We're always blaming it. Oh, it's fear. Fear held me back. Well, I'm worried about this, so I stopped. And you know what it is? It's a grand lie that's been perpetuated by society. It's a huge lie. Because look, fear, real fear, physical fear especially, is there's an external threat that's imminent and it's in your face. That's fear. Everything else is a self-contrived story that we tell ourselves. And we need to realize that most fear is just bad management of our minds. But we allow ourselves to loop it. What happens if you don't know psychologically what's happening? Fear is really just saying, what if, followed by a negative statement. What if she rejects me? What if they don't give me the promotion I ask? What if I fail? What if they make fun of me? What if I lose everything I worked so hard for? What if, followed by a negative statement. I have a question for you though. What if you started focusing more in your life on the what ifs followed by a positive statement? What if she says yes? What if I get what I finally deserve? What if I can grow this business? What if I can accomplish that? What if I believed in myself again? And you started stewing on the positive as much as you stewed on that old negative. It would change your story. It would change how you feel about yourself. Fear is usually not the thing holding people back. What's usually holding them back is a connection with something more important than fear. Let me say it again. Fear is not usually what's holding people back. What's holding them back is a lack of connection with something that's bigger than fear, right? I mean, how does a soldier run into harm's way? How does a firefighter run into the burning building? It's not that they're not fear, right? There is always going to be fear when you're doing something where there might be risk. But instead, the soldier is attached to his mission, his commitment, his pledge to his country, something bigger than the fear and himself. The firefighter runs into the building, he's still afraid. He or she runs in that building because they have a bigger commitment to serve people and save people that's bigger than their fear. If you're not doing something, don't blame fear. Realize that you're lacking a connection to something that's bigger than the fear. Something that you care about more than your insecurity, your worry, your negative what ifs. And so that's what the heroes do. The firefighter said, what if I could save lives? The soldier said, what if I could serve my country? The executive who finally tried that big, bold, crazy idea said, not what if this turns out badly, what if this is innovative, changes the game, serves our customers better? The woman who finally talked to her husband about that thing that's bothering her so long, instead of saying, well, what if he's a jerk? She said, well, he's probably going to be a jerk, but what if I finally move him this time? They allowed themselves to believe. She said, what if he finally changes? And she got over her fears because she said, I care about our relationship and our future more than how scared I am to say something that's vulnerable. You follow? Stop blaming the fear, my friend. This was a big thing for me. I probably started shooting videos about 2 years after I should have, because I thought, well, what if they make fun of me? What if no one watches them? I wasn't a good communicator. This, like I'm doing now, I don't have a teleprompter. I have a couple bullet points in front of me. I'm teaching you from my life, from my experience of serving millions of people around the world. I didn't have that ability before. So I sat there for years, worried and not ready to start. And it was too unfortunate. I mean, I wish I'd started earlier. But back then it was, well, what if it doesn't work? What if this is stupid? And then finally I said, you know what? This isn't fear. There's no fear preventing me from going around and pressing the red button on that camera. There is no fear. There's no fear there. There's a story there. There's a what if followed by a negative statement there. But there's no fear. There is no lie-in between me and the video camera. It's my own self stopping me. It's my own lack of commitment to something bigger than that red button. Stop telling yourself it's fear, my friend, and that will change everything in your life. Number 2, and this is huge, huge, huge. If you don't believe anything I just said, then fine. Get a piece of paper and write down the real fears. Write them down. I want you to think of the dream that you have, the ambition, the goal, and any reason that you think you've been stopping, write down why. Okay, what would you have to go learn, do, or ask for in order to overcome that fear or that challenge? It's simple. You know, the biggest breakthrough sometimes for people's lives is when they write stuff down. Have you ever had that? You've been in a seminar and you're writing your journal, and pow, the idea hits you. Or you're writing your journal at night, or you're typing your book, or you're doing something, and just by the act of expression or capturing, you find your answers. So if I'm talking to you, it's just not hitting, that's okay. Take that time, and you'll find your own answers. When you say, I want this, but this is stopping me, and then you take that next step to say, okay, here's what I should do to address, learn, re-equip, ask for help to address that challenge, then guess what happens? You usually do. Third big idea from there, you know what? Fear tends to dissipate with daily action. Fear tends to dissipate with daily action. So I'd love you to do this. All I want you to do is take 3 steps a day. Accomplish 3 goals a day. I know sometimes in your life when it's really difficult. I mean, I remember when in my life when I was seriously depressed and suicidal as a young man in college after my girlfriend broke up with me. I mean, you know what? A goal for the day might be something as big as take a shower. Literally, that might have been it. Take a shower, eat some food, talk to a friend. That sometimes when you're there, that's all it takes. But you can do those 3 things. When you're uber successful now and you're breaking through, it might be call that person who you've been waiting to call and ask for something from. Shoot that video, create that product, invent that thing, tell those people to stop, ask for help, whatever it is. Find 3 things that you can do every day that's appropriate for where you're at in your life and just do them. Because you know what? Momentum beats the pants out of fear. The more momentum in your life, you get what we call in psychology the experience of the competence confidence loop. Have you heard of that? The competence confidence loop? It's a psychologically proven reality where the better you get or the more momentum you get, the more confidence. And the beauty is the more confidence you get, the more you'll try things and develop more knowledge, skill, and ability. Thus, more competence. And the more competence, confidence, the more confidence. These things grow together. And all of a sudden, fear isn't such a thing anymore because you know what? You've gotten through things before. You've broken through things before. And because you did that, things change. And here's the last big idea. What's something crazy that you could aspire to or want? Crazy. When you looked at your goals, was there anything on those goals that were crazy, totally out of reach? You were like, no way, don't know how, can't do that. Were there anything like that? I want you to find those things. I want you to write that thing down. Here's 3 big crazy things I want in my life. Then I also want you to write, here's the fear I would have if I chased those or I accomplished those. 3 big fears of if I chased it or accomplished it. Because sometimes it's not just the fears we have today, it's we're thinking we're going to have fear tomorrow. Well, if I go for that dream, then these things I might have fears later on. Identify those and create an action plan for those too. Because you know what? The more you think about your fears, the more you realize they're silly. The more you realize those worst case scenarios almost never happen. And the more you realize you deserve something beyond them. You don't deserve to live a life trapped by fear. That cage of fear can only be rattled by you, only be broken by you, only be broken by your mind expanding into new possibilities for yourself and you taking new daily actions. It's okay to think crazy once in a while. I want something crazy and big, and it's a big goal, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. Don't let fear stop you. Get committed to what you want. Set those daily actions and quit making the excuses that it's fear, my friend. It will be the biggest breakthrough you ever have in your life. You want to know the number 1 things you need more for health, happiness, success, abundance, joy, progress in 2021?
you have to question whether or not you are practicing habits that lead to long-term success, well-being, and positive relationships, mental, emotional, or spiritual energy. It's three primary things for me. Three primary things. If you study my work, you know this. Number one, high level intention for each day. Intention for me, not about the to-do list, intention for life. So my live, love, matter intention, right? I'm intentional about my life and my purpose and what I'm trying to do each day. I don't always get it right. I'm just trying. Second, you all know, bring the joy. I ask, how do I bring joy into this? How do I make this more joyful? It's part of the reason I started GrowthDay. I love coaching. I'm going to love it doing it more with my friends. Bring them all in. This is going to be awesome. I get to work on the weekly now with the world's best personal development coaches. That is joy for me. Awesome. GrowthDay. Sweet. Right? So intention, then bringing joy. And third, this is important for everyone to hear. If you've studied my work, honor the struggle. When you have struggle, and you will, and we do, it's not about being mad at the struggle, bemoaning the struggle, or hating the struggle. It's honoring it. Bringing honor to struggle says, I recognize this struggle has been put before me as a challenge. I don't like the challenge. I don't want to embrace it and kiss it. No. I don't need you to embrace the challenge. I might not. I'm fine if you don't want to hug your challenges. I don't like a lot of my challenges. I want to kick them in the face, not embrace them. But I honor the demand of them. I honor that the struggle has been put before me as a challenge of my character and my capability. Oh, I don't like this. It's a challenge. Or I don't like this, but this has been put before me for me to find access to somebody or an idea or a new experience that wouldn't have existed without that struggle or that challenge. So for me, it's a process of honoring and trusting. For me, as a spiritual person, I just feel like the universe lined that up. Wasn't part of my plans. The universe has lined it up, and it's asking me to be on a heroic journey and deal with it from my highest and best self. How would my highest and best self deal with this stressor, with this challenge, with this difficulty, with this inconvenience? And for those who've been in the GrowthDay community or our coaching programs in the past, you know where that leads. It leads to the hardest thing, but maybe the best thing that keeps me on my A game. I call it the role model mindset. I talked about it all of 2020. I spoke about it the first week of March in 2020. If you can have a role model mindset, the role model mindset says, I'm going to demand of myself because other people are watching. The kids see how I show up. My community see how I show up. You are influencing other people, so be intentional and thoughtful and gracious about how you impact other people. The role model mindset says, I want to have a positive influence and impact in the world. And so I'm going to quiet down the lesser, gossipy, crappy sides of me because they'll always be there, but they don't win the day. Those petty parts of you are less quiet than the purposeful sides of you. The petty, egoic, narcissistic, silly, rude, hate-driven part of you, that dark side in the negative light, which we'll talk about, the stuff that we don't like about ourselves, that can be there. But what wins the attitude, what wins the relationship, that's our role model mindset. I'm going to be great for other people, not just for me. I'm going to be great for other people because I can have that ripple effect. Be a leader. Be around leaders. Listen to them. Study them. Even if they're casually talking, ooh, that's their mindset. Oh, that's their routine. Oh, that was a distinction when they had hardship. Oh, because you're not done growing. There's 100 different performance variables in the literature that has been shown to lead to long-term success. But only 6 of them lead to long-term success and well-being, which means life satisfaction, if you will, happiness, and positive relationships over the long term. Meaning you and I both know some people have success and then they're jerks to everybody around them and they're miserable inside. Or they have success, but they burn themselves out completely without realizing you can have quote unquote success, but real success means you achieve your long-term goals. And while achieving your long-term goals, you maintain health and well-being, and you maintain positive relationship and community. That's high performance. That's what we academically mean by the study of high performance habits. So the way that I do it, here's like, you want to know my famous battle board technique. Here's how I think of winning the month, winning the day, the hour, the year. Okay, everything begins for me on the first of the month. The first of the month has always been my growth day. So that's why we started calling this growth day, right? The first of the month. Every first of the month, always, since I was 19 years old, gets probably about 2 hours of real deep reflection and personal development. That means for me, journaling and planning. Journaling to capture where am I at in my life? How do I feel about all these major areas of my life, my health, my relationships, my wealth, my career, my lifestyle, my adventure, my family, my friends. So I do what's called the whole life assessment in the high performance planner. For those who have that, I basically journal on the high performance planner, the whole life assessment. I do that every first of the month. And I've been in that for years. And then I also look out at the month. And I ask myself some simple questions about this upcoming month. I ask, what are my 5 major moves this month? Meaning, what are the 5 major activities or initiatives, you might call them projects, that I'm working towards and I'm moving forward? Those got to be on the board. I got to know that each month, right? We call them the 5 moves. So I know my 5 moves for the month. So I start with that. Second, plan, which is, okay, what's my 5 major moves? Then I break down my 5 major moves. So an activity, let's say one of the major moves is write book, right? That could be a major move. Well, what are the moves under that? What are the activities below that? Contact agent, write 3 chapters, do this type of research, and do these interviews. Okay, cool. Then I make sure that whatever I just wrote down has, block time. Block time. Meaning, whatever those 5 major moves I got to do that month, there's block time in the month. I mean, a block of time, meaning there is an hour dedicated to those subtasks of the activity. It's blocked in the calendar. It's protected at the beginning of the month. It's locked in that calendar. Nothing moves the 5 major moves. Y'all hear me? Though I set those like anchors in the month. Everything else rotates around those, is rescheduled around those. Those things are going to happen. It doesn't matter. Those things are going to happen. So now I've taken major things I should be working on. I've broken it down and it lands in the calendar. Now sit down with your spouse or sit down with your executive team or sit down with that right-hand gal or guy that you have and go through the calendar. I can guarantee your success based on how much you communicate your calendar. Let me say it again. I can guarantee your success based on how much you communicate your calendar. If no one knows what you are trying to do, no one can be along for the ride or support you. If no one knows the time in which you're trying to protect, they can't be your block and tackle person with you. So if you are striving alone in the dark all the time and not speaking to anybody, which is the lone genius metaphor that still exists in pop culture, but is completely antithetical to any real research in high performance, then you've got to realize, I got to tell my spouse, my partner, this is what I am trying to do this month. Here are the major blocks. If you need to protect the time, these are what those blocks are. So that both, I'm assessing where my life is, I'm planning the month ahead, and I'm communicating the month ahead. You do that on the first of the month, it's a shift. It's a huge shift, especially if you're not currently doing that with discipline. Then my next growth day, if you will, is on Sundays. Sundays, I do a very similar process. It's shorter, but I also look out on that calendar. And that's where I'm sharing with Jen, I might reshuffle things or change things. So I'm really focused on making sure that, and by the way, I want you to all know, I suck at planning. And I do this so that I still achieve my dreams. As you heard me share earlier, I have very free mornings. For me, I really protect my mornings. But still on Sunday, I evaluate where I'm going. Is this what I want? Okay, is that where I'm going? Great, okay, cool. On the daily, every day, let's talk about that. Every single day I have my morning routine. You got to have your morning routine. For me, I get up for 20 minutes. I basically do a 60-minute morning routine. And I've built my life to be able to do that. And so it usually has this combination of these things: 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of reading personal development or leadership or history, 20 minutes with that high performance planner, planning out the day, setting the intention, prioritizing, and visualizing the day's activities. Here's what I mean by that. So when I write out my planner for the day and I have a meeting or a presentation or a work effort, in the morning, I already know that block of time. I close my eyes. I imagine that block of time. I go, how would I do that with excellence? How would I do that with excellence? How would I do that with joy? What might trip me up or stress me out? And how would my highest self deal with that situation? So I look at every major thing I have to do that day, and I just close my eyes and I visualize it and think about those questions. In other words, that's what a pro would call mental rehearsal, visualization, good old fashioned personal development. Imagine it before you do it and you'll do it better. Especially if you heard what I just shared. What might trip me up? What might stress me out? So as an example, today, I thought, you know what might stress me out, trip me up? If I don't eat enough, I better make sure I've got food, I've got water, I've got everything handled. Okay, great. Because when I don't do that, problems after this many hours. Okay, cool. Got to make sure I do the self-care. So I imagined that this morning. Okay, God, that gets that mental visualization preparation every day. Every day. So that might sound like a lot, but it's not. Other secret. GrowthDay members, you know this. Friday finishers. A Friday finisher, what does that mean? You should have next to your computer or on a wall somewhere, a Friday finisher is your task list for the week. It means these things, it might be, you might call it your deliverables, your task. It means these items are finished by end of day Friday. Friday finishers, they're non-negotiables as well. Like, I gotta finish these by the end of the week. And by knowing my Friday finishers, I get to go in the weekend free. I don't know about you, but I hate getting to a Saturday afternoon and going, oh, I forgot I was supposed to do that thing. How much stress we have. Oh, I forgot I was supposed to do that thing. It could have taken 20 minutes of planning. And so I know that sounds like a lot. And some of you go, boy, Brendon's a control freak. No, remember, I'm wandering around like an idiot half the morning. I'm not a control freak. Guess what? As you've always heard, discipline gives you freedom. The more disciplined you are about the blocks of time in which meaningful processes, meaningful pursuits must happen, you protect those. You organize your mind and your day around those things and you move towards them. I promise you it will give you a different result. I promise you that will be a different result. I hope today a lot of what I share is common sense, but we all know it's not always common practice, and that's why so many relationships fall apart. So, simple one. First, double side of the coin. We all know these two rules, right? One is put the relationship first, right? We all heard that before. And this is Denise's, I'm going to combine two of hers together right here. One is put the relationship first. But the flip side of that coin is you must grow and be independent and be striving to be your best in and outside of the relationship. Otherwise, if you aren't growing, the relationship becomes stagnant.
And so it's interesting. That's that interdependence, independence thing that makes all these relationships so dang hard, right? Is because, yes, you want to pour yourself into your partner and your spouse and support them and cheer them on and make decisions just for the relationship. And we all have the individual spirit that wants to manifest and reach our own full potential. And how do we do those two things in union and alignment? We're going to talk a lot about that today. Our first teaching today, let's jump in. Our first teaching today is that simple understanding there's two sides of a coin in a relationship. There's relationship first, and there is grow and reach your potential independently as well. That interdependence, independence. You must recognize the push and the pull of that and be attentive to that at all times to have a great relationship. I would argue that almost 90% of conflicts in relationships are actually not about who cleaned, the kitchen. It's not about, the finances or this kid didn't do that in the household. No, what it usually tends to be is a push and a pull between interdependence and independence, and the couple's not understanding that duality and not mitigating for that duality. And so one person's like, relationship first, we should do everything together. We should be on the same page. It should be perfect together. And relationship first also, though, means, hey, when you're making decisions about your life, make it please in the context that we have chosen to live life together. Who's ever had a relationship where the person was completely oblivious to this idea of make the relationship first, right? It was probably miserable for you. It was like, this person doesn't prioritize us. And I believe that one thing has really helped us, me and Denise in our relationship, is honestly, she defaults to that. She is so good and bringing me back to that too, that it's about us. We plan together. We have to have the journey together. Don't just go do these things. Think about how does that impact us, our life, our family. And she's really just good at that. And I believe that's what has taught me to be a better man, I hope, in the relationship that we've gotten, more and more years into our relationship together. I think that is really powerful. How do you put your relationship first? You always make decisions within the context of realizing you're in a relationship together. Like obvious, right? And it doesn't mean you can't have independent decisions. It means those decisions still take place in understanding the effects and the consequences of your actions within the relationship. When we forget there's consequences of our actions within a relationship, the relationship inevitably becomes something separate than us. And when this relationship is separate than us, they feel a separatedness. And the more your partner feels a separateness in the relationship, the more that relationship struggles. This is why you hear people say, I always say, make decisions together, plan together, know what you're both working on together. That's the idea of relationship first. It's, oh, right, I have a life partner. That means I do life with my partner. So when I plan things in my life, I think about my partner. And that simple reminder, I know not all of you need, but you've been in relationships where that was not true. And if you have been, you know what I'm talking about in that separateness. You don't feel like you really know the person, or you feel like they don't value your opinion. You feel like they, are living their own life and they don't care about you or the effect on your family. And so it's so important for us to always remember, all right, when I think about relationships, I always think about the coin, I call it, the coin. Interdependence, independence. Relationship first. Okay, got it. And the opposite side, which so many people naturally gravitate towards and know, especially if in a Growth Day community like this, which is you must continue improving yourself and fulfilling yourself if that relationship is going to come into a true, deep, meaningful, fulfilling relationship, right? If you're stagnant, don't get mad that the relationship is stagnant.
If your partner is stagnant, meaning they're not growing, they're not stretching themselves, they're not trying to learn about their mindset or their effect of energy on other people, or to become more productive towards meaningful pursuits that matter to them, well, then what happens? It's like you're growing and you're extending, but they are not. Who's ever been there? That's super hard. Now, the challenge is you can't, if relationship first is one side of that coin and growing is the other, and you happen to be the person on that coin, you're growing, and you don't sense that they are. Because relationships are first, you also cannot be bitter towards them, hate them, be jaded about it, because there's probably been points in your life where you weren't growing at your potential either. And what is the thing between, like, what is the material, I call it, between the coin? Interdependence and independence. What's the material, right? If you have a penny, you know that the material's copper, right, in between, right? What is the in between? Here's my philosophy. The in between, the stuff of the coin, is called grace. Grace. If two people are going to come together and it's going to work out, there's got to be grace between them. Grace when you're growing and they're not. Grace when they're growing and you're not. Grace when they're struggling and you're doing great. Grace when you fall a little bit away from each other. And without that, it's really hard to keep that coin unified and valuable, if you will. And so I want to begin today with a simple idea. I know, after teaching about relationships literally for 15 years, and I've been blessed to coach some of the highest level couples in the business world and some of the highest level Olympic couples. I've worked with couples in every possible scenario that you can imagine, from new parents to people who've chosen not to have children, to people who are just trying to finally create depth and meaningfulness in a new relationship. I can share you, 15 years of coaching, you have to imagine every conversation or every other conversation brings up a relationship that somebody is in. And what I have seen over and over and over again, when either teaching or coaching on relationships, is your, or the listener, the student's immediate impulse to judge the other person. So as I'm teaching today, it's very easy. My husband, he's like this. My wife, she's like that. And you're immediately, like, as soon as I start teaching about something, you immediately cast the other person as the wrongdoer. And if we're going to explore relationships today, no, the material in between interdependence and independence is not wrongdoer. It's grace. If you want the relationship to improve, if you want the relationship to deepen, if you want that thing to feel better, no bitterness here, no judgment here. I always say, judge less, feel better. Okay, let's not judge our partners or spouses here. Let's educate, let's learn, let's explore how we think. You can't control them. Maybe you're lucky and they're watching with you. And if you're watching this as a couple, make sure you put that in the chat and get some recognition and celebration that you're participating as a couple here. I think that's super awesome. I think that would be amazing. And so for some of you are doing that. That's great. But if your partner or spouse isn't here with you right now, don't make this a judge session on them, even if you're in turmoil, even if they feel separate, even if you're fighting. I want you instead to say, let me explore my relationships with openness and grace. Let me be accountable for my stuff, think through my stuff, and not make this a session of they're bad and they're the wrongdoer. Because I promise you, as soon as you make your partner or spouse the wrongdoer, life gets hard. That relationship struggles. And so I want to start with laying this idea onto you of the coin. Interdependence, independence. Relationship first, grow so you don't stagnate. And as you have that difficult duality sometimes, in between, what makes a relationship work is grace. That means
understanding, compassion, forgiveness, openness to the other and their life amid your relationship. I hope that helps.
Today, I want to start with what we promise in Growth Day and what we talk about in Growth Day, because we have three big themes that we're always working towards in Growth Day. It's this framework that, I teach that I believe is really the drives that we're all after. This is something that we are going to work on together all year. Everybody wants these three things. We all want aliveness, connection, and meaningful pursuits. And these are things that I promise, after you make your next $10,000 or $100,000, or you have your next child, or you move to that dream place, or you get that perfect job, or you start that new business, no matter how busy you get or how successful you get, these three things never go away. Our sense of aliveness is our sense of being. Our sense of aliveness is that thing that we all want: enthusiasm, zest, pop, joy, emotional vitality, right? Vibrancy, full presence, that sense of aliveness each day where we feel the day, where we bring the joy. These are themes. So here's what I have to ask you. What could you do this month to feel more alive? What could it be this month? Maybe it's you get your family together on Zoom once a week just to feel like a sense of joy if you like your family. If you don't, maybe you go take an adventure. Maybe you do more of your art. Maybe you do that creative endeavor again. You go out in the garage and you build the thing. Maybe you try something new, you challenge yourself. But also, please know, what's the other side of aliveness? Well, deadness. So is there anything that's in your life that you're just like, that shouldn't be in my life? It drains your life. An obligation, a task that you can outsource or help get some assistance with. Is there something that is just draining your energy, your good energy? If it's a person, a place, a thing, what is it? Let's think about it. Okay, the last 30 days, the last 60 days, here in 2021, is there anything that has stolen your sense of aliveness? What is it? And how can you change that thing, alter that thing, outsource that thing, quit that thing? I mean, you want to feel more alive. You got to get rid of things that don't make you feel that way, but not you have to do it in a responsible manner. We got to find what makes us feel alive. Maybe comedy makes you feel alive. Maybe you need to dance more. Maybe it's time you put on some music around the house. Whatever you got to do to feel more alive, that's got to be a focus of this month. Our theme is focus. What should be our focus? How alive we feel. How present we feel, how vibrant and healthy we feel. These are things that you should plan for. The second thing you see there is connection. We all want connection with ourselves, the world, other people. Specifically, after we've had everything, we want a deeper connection with self and others, right? What is that relationship that you need to improve with yourself or others or your God or your creator? What is that relationship that you could go deeper on? As an example, some of you you should set your relationship goals on the first of the month, right? So what are your relationship goals for this month? What's your relationship goal for your spouse or your relationship goal with your son or your daughter? What's your relationship goal with your key team members? So what are some goals you could set to deepen connections with your customers, your clients, your friends, your family, your loved ones, your spouse, the kids? Like, really think about that. Last up, but certainly not least, is these meaningful pursuits. We all want a sense of meaning, satisfaction, and engagement in pursuing something, in progressing towards something, in achieving or contributing or creating something. These are your creation goals or your contribution goals, right? Your meaningful pursuits. It's your artistic endeavor. It's your hobby. It's your passion. It's your purpose. It's your mission. Whatever it is, it's something you draw meaning from just by being in the hunt, just by engaging or doing the thing. So what are you going to do this month that you're going to find meaningful, satisfying, fulfilling? And again, what are the things you got to get rid of? They're just not tasks that you find meaningful, fulfilling, satisfying, engaging. So let's talk about focus now. So if we set our goals each month around aliveness, around connection, around meaningful pursuits, and we think about how we want to grow into those things, let's figure this out. Your focus at any given time is based on what I call 3 states of mind. And these 3 states of mind are where your mind is going at any given time. Consciously or unconsciously, very few people are aware of it. But once you become aware of it, you realize how you can regain your focus. For the most part of our unconscious life, especially as we're young and striving to build something and we're not familiar with personal development and we're just kind of going through the motions, our mind, our mental chatter, a lot of our unconscious thoughts are built on protecting ourselves. Our thoughts are protectionist, right? You all call this survival mode. Your mind has that, part of our evolutionary history that is very focused on protecting ourselves. And we protect ourselves not just physically, but we protect ourselves emotionally and mentally. And so what does this have to do with focus? A lot of people's focus, without them even being aware of their consciousness yet, a lot of their focus is always on worry, on protecting ego, on, fear-based thinking. All of these thoughts, this mental chatter, is to protect oneself or one's things or one's relationships or one's standing and identity in the world. I need to protect my status, my ego, and my standing in this community, right? I'm embarrassed to be seen starting small because I need to protect the sense that I have strength and respect. We're protecting ourselves a lot. Why do I bring this up? Well, we're in March. You had January, you had your big vision, New Year's goal session. We crushed it, January and February. You got these dreams out there. If you are not moving towards them swiftly with focus and discipline, it's because in your mind, it's saying, be careful. Don't go too fast. What if they don't like you? What if it doesn't work out? And in the way that you're protecting mindset, it always almost is this internal state of thought that says, what if, followed by a negative statement. What if it doesn't go well? What if I don't know what I'm doing? What if they judge me? What if there's ruin? What if there's regret? What if there's disaster? What if it was better over there and I wasted my time? What if I choose the wrong thing? That's the protecting mind. And sometimes when we don't have the focus we want during the day, it's because we're scared all the time. You know why a lot of people lack discipline? Not because they don't have things they want. It's because it's easier not to do something when you're scared. It's because it's easier not to do something when all your thoughts are saying, what if this doesn't turn out? Well, let me just disengage. It's not that you as a human lack the character trait of discipline and hard work or commitment. It's that your thoughts are betraying you. Your thoughts are on this merry-go-round of doubt. You follow? And that doubt sounds like protective thinking, protecting the ego, the sense of security, protecting who we feel like we should be or are, protecting our current bank account, protecting our current, progress. And I'm not here to say protecting thoughts are bad. I'm here to contextualize our conversation today about focus and discipline and drive. So if you feel like you lack focus, you probably have a lot of fear. If you feel like you lack discipline, you have a lot of doubts. If you feel like you lack drive, you have a lot of discouragement because every time you try something, the brain goes, well, I look stupid, I better quit. This ain't working. What if it gets worse? What if it never turns out? What if, followed by a negative statement, is how our mind can trick us from being focused, disciplined, and driven. Now listen, thank God our mind has that mental chatter of protecting. It's the thing that keeps you out of going down strange places where your intuition is saying, hey, don't go there. It's what helps you protect yourself in times of crises. It activates the part of you that reacts swiftly and carefully to protect your physical being, right? It's survival mode. Sometimes survival mode is needed when you're in real threat. But I can also share with you, I thought my plane was going to crash. And I didn't allow my brain to go into threat. I heard it go there, and I said, let me choose a different thought pattern right now. Let me turn my focus to something useful. If I'm, and you all, I hope this doesn't sound metaphorical because this is real. If that plane is going to go down when I'm in it, I don't want my last minute or two to be focused on the terror of it. I grab my thoughts back and I start praying and giving appreciation for this incredibly blessed life. I start asking for my family and my friends to know I lived a happy life, for them to continue living a happy and a great life, even if I'm not here. I want to be intentional with that last minute or 2 or 3 minutes. Even though my amygdala is going, holy crap, this plane, the smell, that's still there. But what I'm trying to encourage you is with enough time in personal development, you can override the protectionist things that take away from the experiences that you want in life. We can teach our brain. We can override those things with enough time. I'm not here to say it's easy. I'm here to say it's required for a good life. That's the difference. I don't care if it's easy. I just go crazy when people say, well, Brendon, that sounds hard, or it's easy for you. I'm like, oh, ease is not the goal. Progress is. Ease is not the goal. Consciousness is. I'm not worried about making it easy on you. I'm here to say these are the requirements of a good life. What else? Where else is our brain often? Well, often in our day-to-day, we're actually more in what I call a processing mind, right? A processing mind. What does that mean? Well, a processing mind means it's your thinking mind, right? It's your thinking mind. So what is that? Well, it's you just ruminating on things, thinking through things. Why did she do that? Why do I feel this way? What's next? What do I need? What am I learning here? Why did that thing happen? It's the questioning, inquisitive, curious mind that's just chugging along. It's just going. And that inquisitive mind is wondering how things are going to turn out, or it's wondering what's next, or it's wondering, but here's something to know. Here's something to know. This is also where analysis paralysis happens. We got any overthinkers out here? Anyone, it's thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, studying and studying and studying, but not always taking action. Just like you're stuck in processing all the time. Or some of you, something happened last week and you're still thinking about it. It's gone. It should be let go. It should be forgiven. It shouldn't be on your mental dashboard today. You got missions to serve, people to serve, things to do today, but you're still thinking about something that happened. I was in an emergency plane ride on Tuesday. I'm not feeling it or thinking about it today other than to share a lesson with you. It's not like I woke up today thinking about it. No, instead I said, well, that's not going to be useful. Me processing that 1,000,000 times and running it over and over in my mind, what is that going to achieve? Okay, it happened. Cool. What's the lesson? Great. Move on. And this is so important. Some of you are still feeling the same anger and emotion about something that happened a decade ago. And it's stealing from your aliveness. It's stealing from your connection with other people. It's stealing from your sense of meaning and joy. And you got to get a hold of that. If you got divorced 10 years ago and you're still processing it, get a therapist. And I mean that with not judgment, with joy, to recommend professionals to you. If you're still processing something that happened when you were in high school, when she broke up with you or that person, and that negative thinking or that negative emotional reality is still here with you decades later, raise your hand and be proud about asking for help and getting a professional person to help you work through that. I'm not here to say that we should all be able to get over things quickly. If you've ever studied my work, you recognize I don't lack empathy or intelligence around how the brain works. I get it, right? I've spent my life in human behavior change. I understand it takes time. I understand it needs support. I understand sometimes you don't even know what's going on. And that's why you might need a coach or a therapist, or to at least even voice it for the very first time to your friends, your family, your community. But if you're still processing over and over, replaying things from the past over and over and over again in a way that's limiting your sense of aliveness, connection, or meaningful pursuits, it's time to deal with that thing, right? Sometimes the most powerful thing in processing is to close it down. What do I mean by that? Okay, that situation, I didn't like it, period. Didn't like it, learn from it, period. And not drag all those emotions into today, not drag all that feeling into today, right? And I'm not here to offer therapeutic advice to you. I'm a coach. But what I'm here to suggest to you is that be aware of, where are you stuck on something? Where are you just in forever processing, thinking, ruminating? Because that can also spin your mind into equal deficit as much as protecting. And all of a sudden it's just like, ugh. And what I want to encourage you to do, even in those experiences, at some point, we got to shift the mind into progressing. Progressing. Okay, what's the next right action of integrity for me? What's the next thing I can do to move the ball forward? What's the next thing I can say to myself to release the past and get on with it, right? Sometimes we have to interrupt the thoughts and say, okay, what's next? Let me get this old clunky brain here into motion again. And that's what's going to give you the aliveness and the connection and the progress towards those meaningful pursuits. It's like, you got to take hold of mine and go, okay, what's the next right action of integrity? Like, let me switch my gears. That's why I have to fill out my high performance planner every morning, because my mind, I'm a nutty professor. I will be in processing and thinking and analytical all day. I will. I have to go, Brendon, okay, action, progress, move it forward. Otherwise, you know what? Without progress, the mind goes a little batty. It gets restless. It gets frustrated. Now you get discouraged and sad and upset. But we need a little bit of that progress to sense that momentum. And that momentum gives us more confidence. That confidence gives us more competence. Those senses give us a little more mastery and engagement of the day. But guess what? Some of you, you're in progress mode all the time. And your family's like, can you take a minute to just eat your food? Can you just chill out for 5 minutes to be with your child? Can you just relax one night? Can you just not work till X amount? Or could you please stop putting in the 100-hour work week? Like, sometimes when you're in just action, progress mode, we're in trouble. So all of these things, I hope you hear me saying examples of good and bad, right? Protecting can be good. Processing can be good. Progress can be good. But they can also equally have their negative flip side, right? If you progress, if you're always progress, go, and you don't take care of yourself, we're in trouble. So I'm hoping to draw this out to say your focus is in one of these three buckets. Sometimes it's all simultaneous. Sometimes it's one focus. Some of you live a life in one of these buckets. Does that make sense? Maybe it's like you might go, some of you, I can identify a year or 2 or 10 years where you were just in one of these things and you never made that shift.
Leadership, the delicate dance is always about the vision decision. It's about you or the leader or the group of leaders taking the mantle and that authority and accountability to say, okay, we've listened to all interested parties. We've done our best to understand what everybody needs and wants. But ultimately, this is the vision decision. This is where we are going to go together as a group. Someone's got to hold that space, take that mantle, lead that charge, repeat that vision over and over and over. Somebody or some group's got to own that. When you look at great movements that could have been, they didn't have someone or a particular group owning that vision decision. Because, right, you've heard also the phrase, too many cooks in the kitchen, too many voices, lacking aim or organization and alignment is ruined. So you've got to decide, okay, I have this movement, I have this idea. Are you going to be the vision decision maker or among that group? Like in companies today, right, in the crazy times we're living economically, where there's so much funding of new startup companies as an example. It's all about, okay, who's on this team? Who's the decision maker? What are they capable of? And where do they want to go together? And if you believe in them and you want to, if you're investing in a company, you want to believe in that team or that board, and that's going to define so much of how you invest, more than their metrics. Because it's about that dream team. Who's making the decision? But ultimately, leadership is going to rest on 1, 2, 3 people. And that's why you have CEOs of organizations, right? That's why you have, the big leaders of movements from throughout history. It always kind of fell on someone who had to make the tough calls. And that vision decision shapes everything, organizationally, economically. You think of like when a Steve Jobs left or was forced out of Apple and came back in, the approach that he had to take, a vision decision, was, oh, you know what? We're doing all these things. I think we need to go over here, and it might not be popular. And there's other voices saying support these things, but this is the track we're going to have to take and have to make those hard decisions. So it's always those things. Have open ears, make the hard decisions. The first principle, open ears. Second principle, vision decision. You have to own the vision decision. You have to be open to it. You have to be adaptable with it, but you've got to be the most committed person on the team, in the organization, in the culture, in the family. You've got to be the person who holds that thing together, who's entrusted with that. I always say leaders are really entrusted with service. They're entrusted with the vision. And as they're entrusted with that vision, they're also relied upon to make the hard decisions. What's some of the hardest decisions you ever made in your life? Like the hardest decisions you ever made in your life. Could be in any area, your relationships, your finances, your career. What's some of the hardest decisions you've ever made? If you think about those hard decisions that you made, those hard decisions ultimately were made because you had a different vision at that moment. You didn't like where things were. You wanted to go in a different direction, and you bought into a vision of how things need to be different. Whether that was from like depletion, you were just exhausted, tired, didn't like it. Whether it was from a place of just like, oh, I recognize all the problems here, or I know there's a better solution, or it was highly aspirational for your future. You bought into a different vision, and you made a decision from that vision. Well, I share that with you because part of the principle here, a vision decision, is to be aware, oh, your whole team is making hard decisions based on the vision. You're going to have to make hard decisions based on the vision. So here's a tough question. What the heck is the vision? What is it that you are after? What is it that you collectively want to move towards, want to achieve? And it doesn't have to be some pie in the sky forever, 100-year out vision. It might be a 3-month out vision. It might be a 6-month out vision. But if you're not crystal clear about that decision that vision with yourself, what will happen is, as people support what they create, as you open those ears, as you have those other conversations, you'll be unmoored to the beliefs, the values, and the direction that you want to go. You'll lose yourself in the noise. And this is the number one thing I see great leaders do to fail. They lost themselves in the noise. So much noise from the stakeholders, so much noise from the shareholders, so much noise in social media, the bad article written about them, the people trying to cancel culture them. They lose their foundation of their vision of themselves and their future, and they start becoming a ghost, fully adaptable and flexible into everything else everybody else wants. And now what they really are is a vessel carrying everybody else and everything else without that command level internally of, oh, I am in charge of this. If you read the Motivation Manifesto, you get the ethos of this, right? Every morning, you got to get up, you got to pick up that spear of purpose, you got to cast it as far as you can see it today. Throw that spear of purpose as far as you can today, as far as you can. And then your day is to go march towards that spear with so much commitment, so much discipline, so much resilience that then you get that spear, you get to throw it out as far as you can again. That is having the vision, and that is having the discipline to go get it. The interesting thing is you have to take that outside of your head. You probably have a clearer vision for what's important to you than your wife does, than your partner does, than your friends do, than your family does. And so a huge part of the vision principle is you've got to communicate it more. You got to help everybody see what that vision ends up being, where they participated or they didn't, depending on your timing. And now it's like, oh, this is the thing we're rallying around. This is the spear. I'm going to throw it. We're going to go together. Okay, great. Let's go. And that command of the vision is what I mean by the vision decision. It doesn't mean other people didn't participate in it, but you own it. You own it. The big part about it is your life's decisions, whether you are conscious or unconscious throughout your life's decisions were leading to a vision. And today's a good opportunity to say, is this the vision? Is this what I wanted? Or did I not know what I wanted? Did I just go along the ride with everybody else and do what everyone else told me my whole life? Or did I architect this? Was I thoughtful about what the decision was, what I was after? Today's a good day to look at the vision you have for your life and ask, does it match what your reality is today? And if it doesn't, now the fun part, the hard decisions. All of personal development, the good part about it, is about the difficult decisions. I really believe that. It's about the difficult decisions, and it's about the disciplined habits that keep us growing and extending and reaching new levels of our potential. That's why I love it. That's why I love personal development. That's why I love it so much. Doesn't matter how much I'm working, how tired I am, where I've been in the world, how much travel, how much work. Doesn't matter what's going on with my family, my life, my finances, or whatever. I love personal development because it commands so much from you. It says, oh, you want to grow? Look at where you are, young man. Look at where you are, young lady. Decide, is that the vision you have for your life? No? Then make the hard decisions, practice those disciplined habits to go where you want to go. I love that stuff. Today's a good day to evaluate the vision you have for your life, overlay that to how your life really is, and then make the difficult decisions to start more disciplined, moving towards that vision that you want. It's the stuff of accountability that lies within this principle. So when I talk about the vision decision, it's you own it, you're responsible for it, you got to communicate it, and you got to be real about whether that vision is mapping to today. And if it's not, you got to initiate the decisions or the discussions with others to make the decisions. And you've got to discipline the habits to move towards that vision. You got to own it. That's the hardest part. This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember, you go,
That was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.